Weekend complete that began on Tyneside on Friday night with a 1-1 draw between Newcastle and Leeds. Wins for Brentford, Arsenal, Liverpool, Watford and Villa on Saturday, but not of course for the champions Manchester City, held at home by Southampton. Earlier on today, 2-1 games, but that doesn't tell the complete story, which we'll tell you about in the next hour or so. Brighton getting the 3 points against Leicester, who had VAR complaints, and then all kinds of late drama that saw eventually Manchester United win 2-1 at West Ham. Mark Noble brought on for a penalty that was saved by David De Gea in the 95th minute. And 3-0 and 3 more points for Chelsea.
Far too deep, in my opinion. In the second half, you saw nothing of Kane. You saw nothing of Dele Alli. And Ndombele absolutely blew up, not fit enough. Lo Celso had to come off the field as well. There's so many players going down with cramp. Your main man, Son, was starved of any sort of service. It was a very, very poor performance in the second half, and something he's going to need to look at. I think if you're going to play with that sort of intensity as you did at the start of the game, which they're capable of doing, we saw a large number of that squad play under Pochettino with a very high intensity. Under Jose it changed, it was a little bit more pragmatic. Now we haven't seen that intensity at the start of the game under Nuno so far this season, but we've seen 3 wins. But the writing's been on the wall for me. They've sat back. When they play at this stadium, the fans will not accept them sitting back. They did it against Watford. They got away with it because they won the game. Unless you're winning games, you have to play on the front foot. Now, he needs to get them fit enough to be able to do that. They've got the talent, and they're not going to play Chelsea. Let's have it right. They're not going to play Chelsea and the Man Cities and the Man Uniteds, Liverpool's every single week. But you need to play with identity. It's Tottenham Football Club. They expect a certain identity, and at the moment, I'm not sure what we are.
Only 5 games in, but going back to last season and the Champions League win, just how impressed are you with Chelsea and the way they're looking under Thomas Tuchel?
I think if I could describe them in one way, it would be efficient at the minute. They just do not look like conceding a thing. They look like, they don't look like scoring 5 or 6 goals, by the way, but they're just ruthlessly efficient at the moment. They've got a centre forward now that you expect him to cause danger every time he gets the ball. They've got a focal point that they can hit into him. They've got runners off him. They can cross the ball and expect him to be in there. As I say, they don't look like scoring at all. They've got a very solid base in midfield, big squad. I mean, they just look like they're a well-oiled machine at the minute. And even 1 or 2 injuries, as long as it's not to the main man up front, they look like they've got cover in every position as well. They're actually carrying 1 or 2 players as well that aren't really hitting it off at the moment. Verne has not been a good signing as of yet. Question marks about Havertz. He keeps playing him, but I'm still waiting to see, him put in some really good performances. So there's still a couple of players that you think, expect to see a bit more out of, but even without them, they are just steamrolling at the minute.
They've just conceded 1 goal as well all season, Chelsea. Tim was talking about the atmosphere. Let's go back to the stadium and speak to Glenn Hoddle. What was it like, supporter-wise, second half inside the stadium, Glenn?
Well, it was very quiet. You could only hear the Chelsea fans, and rightly so, second half for the performance that they put in. Spurs were very poor. What the guys were saying there. They were very tepid and timid. My problem is with them, I couldn't see how they were trying to win the ball back. I think Chelsea's shape, they had no idea of how they were going to win the ball back. It was like in between all the time, and they just got a chase in second half. And let's face it could have been a lot more, couldn't it? But I think Nuno's got a lot of work to do. They're not fit yet, whether that's because of the training or whether it's because of too many players haven't trained enough yet or had match practice yet. But I don't think you can lean on that and then blame that. Chelsea went up a few gears, and Tottenham, quite frankly, couldn't stay with them.
Tim's point, in time, at home, with the fans back in the stadium now, they'll expect more than that, won't they, in terms of positivity?
Well, very much so. I think it's okay talking about pressing and you've got to have the fitness, you've got to have the energy to do that. You can't do that for 90 minutes. Certainly this squad at the moment, in the shape that they're in, they can't do it. But it's also when they had the ball. I've never seen a Spurs side off the ball have no movement. There was like mannequins. There was no movement at all. The back players, Dyer and Romero, just had nowhere to go. They had nowhere to pass. Every white shirt was standing still for long periods. And in the end, I felt sorry for who was in possession of the ball. We've all been in teams like that, where it happens like that. You're going through that lack of confidence. And on this day, Chelsea had options left, right and centre. Their shape is a brilliant shape. 3 at the back and wing backs. When you're doing it right with the 3 in midfield, I thought the half time bringing Conte on there in midfield and making it a 3 in there, a real solid 3, actually just overpowered Tottenham. And in the end, they were brilliant, and they deserve to be top of there. They are the best team in the country. There's no doubt about it at this moment in time. Reversing it, I thought City were going to be the team to be knocked off the top. I think it's Chelsea now. I think City have got a lot of work. It's a hell of a game they play each other next week. I think it's Chelsea, the ones that are actually going to be in control, and who's going to knock them off their pedestal. They're a very efficient side, but they've got creativity as well. But my word, they defend and they know. Every time they had the ball, you just knew, every player knew where to be. Whether it was a midfield, the wing-backs on the opposite side of the pitch, were always in the right position. Tuchel, since he came in, has gone into a back 3, and my word, he's got them playing it absolutely perfect. And that's why they're top of the league.
Manchester City coach Pep Guardiola said the club's failure to sign a new striker in the close season was not the reason they were unable to beat Southampton on Saturday. City were held to a frustrating 0-0 draw at the Etihad Stadium after mustering just 1 shot on target all match, their lowest tally in a Premier League game since March 2017. Guardiola's side were heavily linked in the British media with Tottenham Hotspur's Harry Kane and Cristiano Ronaldo, as they looked to replace all-time top goalscorer Sergio Aguero, who left for Barcelona ahead of the new season, but they were ultimately left frustrated in the transfer market. "Today we didn't win not because we didn't have a centre forward," Guardiola said. "We didn't win because our process in the build-up was wrong or the better balls for players up front were not good. When they are good, they can run, arrive in other positions. That, no striker, is not the reason. The reason is because we didn't do our process from our back 4 and Fernandinho. The 5 guys who have to bring the ball to the other players were not good today." Guardiola also doubled down on his denial of any wrongdoing following his comments that a greater number of fans needed to attend the Etihad, a statement that angered supporters groups. "I didn't say anything wrong after the Leipzig match," Guardiola added. "I said we need support of our fans. I never complained about how many come or don't come. I've never done this in my life. I am grateful for 100 people, 85 people extra in the stadium. I thank them, fans, for coming. Of course they were awesome, especially in last minute when we push more. It was difficult to ask them to get right behind us when we are not good or we have lost.